Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
So much in the news to discuss, of course. There's Margaritaville going on now. Arguments, people wrapping themselves, their undies in a bunch over Democrat Senator Chris Van Hollen's visit to El Salvador and the photo ops that came out of it with the hero of the Democrat Party, Chris Van Hollen, and the illegal immigrant from El Salvador who has been returned to his home that the Democrat Party insists must be brought back to America despite his past. And that past includes charges of abuse toward his wife, human potential, suspicions of him being involved in human trafficking, his alliance as a gang member of MS-13, now declared a terrorist group. This is, of course, what Democrats consider to be their prime mission, making sure that we have illegal terrorists back in the United States so that they can be back home instead of the country of his origin. A little bit later, of course, on today's program, Princess Diana will be with us. She'll be with us early today. We're going to have Princess Diana in the 8 o'clock hour instead of the 9 o'clock hour today. And our very own Lizzie Aradabali will be joining us, as well as America's small caffeinated mom. So we've got a lot to cover. I want to begin today by asking a question, and that is, what is the American legacy in your view? What is America? What is this nation's legacy? I ask that because today is the anniversary of the beginning of something that would change the world. That would be the American Revolution, 250 years ago, April 19th. 1775, 5 o'clock in the morning, 700 British troops on a mission to capture Patriot leaders marched into Lexington, Massachusetts. They found 77 armed Minutemen under Captain John Parker waiting for them on the town's common green. The British major in charge of the British troops there, John Pitcairn, ordered the outnumbered Patriots to disperse. They hesitated. They eventually drifted off the town green, but a shot was fired. A cloud of musket smoke soon covered the green. This is the History.com website's retelling of the story. When this brief battle was over, 8 Americans lay dead or dying, 10 others wounded. 1 British soldier was injured, but that was the start of the American Revolutionary War. By 1775, of course, the tensions between the colonies and the British government were at the breaking point, especially in Massachusetts. And you know, those of you that actually took history, studied American history, know some of the incidents that led up to these heightened tensions, including increased taxes on the American colonists who were unrepresented in British Parliament at the time. This is me right now, not history.com. You know that there was a disregard by King George, who, by the way, was, let's look at King George and contrast him with Joe Biden. King George was not a well man. British troops, of course, then after the Battle of Lexington, were at Concord, 7 a.m. They found themselves encircled by hundreds of armed patriots. The British destroyed the military supplies Americans had collected, but were advanced upon by a gang of Minutemen who inflicted casualties on the British. This was the day that the American Revolution began, 250 years ago today. There won't be a lot of big celebrations today. You know, in other nations, when there's a revolution, the Revolutionary Day is a day. Ours is the Day of Independence, of course, July 4th, recognized as Independence Day. The Associated Press this morning, which is why I asked you the question, what do you think the American legacy is? 250 years after America went to war for independence, a divided nation battles over its legacy, says the Associated Press. The American Revolution began 250 years ago in a blast of gunshot and a trail of colonial spin. And they say that right now, Trump has called for celebrations, or to balance any celebrations with questions about women, the enslaved, the indigenous peoples, and what their stories reveal. The history of Lexington and Concord in Massachusetts is half known, the myth deeply rooted. Among the things that the Associated Press recalls is that no one has learned throughout history who fired first, why. The revolution itself was initially less a revolution than a demand for better terms. Most scholars agree the rebels of April 1775 weren't looking to leave the British Empire. They wanted to repair the relationship with King George, go back to the days before the Stamp Act, the Tea Act, and other of these oppressive taxes. The colonists only wanted to turn back the clock to 1763. But the rebels had already believed their cause was greater than a disagreement. It's another point of view between subjects and rulers well before the turning points of 1776, before the Declaration of Independence, or Thomas Paine's boast that we have it in our power to begin the world over again. They cast themselves in a drama for the ages. The so-called Suffolk Resolves of 1774, drafted by civic leaders in Suffolk County, Massachusetts, prayed, important word there, prayed for a life unfettered by power, unclogged with shackles, a fight that would determine the fate of this new world and unborn millions. The idea that America somehow, as we find ourselves a divided nation battling over its own legacy, well, to a degree, okay, I understand. Yes, we are an incredibly divided nation, incredibly divided. But the idea that that's defining this 250-year anniversary, I think, is absurd. The American Revolution didn't just change America from a nation of 13 colonies into the superpower that it is today, my friends. The American Revolution changed the entire world. It changed the balance of power in the entire world. Not that every nation has risen, but the world is a different place because of the American Revolution. You think about this for just one moment, the most obvious. When this revolution occurred, monarchies ruled. You look at France, you look at Spain, you look at the European powers. Who were the rulers? They were monarchs. They had unlimited power, and they used them. Now, yeah, the powers had been restrained somewhat, and especially you look at the UK, you look at what had taken place before that, 2 centuries before that almost, well over a century before it at least, with the Magna Carta, but still, the monarchs had tremendous power, not just in Europe, but all over the world. You look at what was going on, we were coming out of a feudal world, a feudalist world. That world does not exist anymore. We were coming out of a world governed by monarchs. That doesn't exist anymore to the degree that it did. Even nations that have retained their monarchy, like Britain, for instance, they still have a monarch, but what is that monarch, what is there in terms of real power? None. Not really. What is the real power of the kings of any and queens of any of these great nations that used to be ruled by monarchs? None. What was the starting point for change in the world that accelerated the world into eras of freedom? It was America and the American Revolution. We're short on time right now. I'm going to come back and speak about this a little bit more. 800-848-9222 is how you reach us. James Golden. So much. I can't wait to catch up with Princess Di a little bit later on. You know, we're coming up on Trump's 100 days. The 100-day mark is April 30th. It's a great day. April 30th is a wonderful day. And Trump will have been in office 100 days. Already, Washington Post, I saw something by Dana Milbank, Trump hater. Failure. Already, Democrats and mainstream, they're the same. Democrats in the mainstream media, Trump haters, people suffering with TDS, are trying to already put together the case, get it out there that this 100 days has been a failure. It has not. This 100 days has been probably the most dramatic 100 days of any president since FDR, maybe even surpassing that. But we have time to talk about that, and we will. Overnight, ladies and gentlemen, well, let me set the stage. There was a story yesterday that advocates had in Texas. The American Civil Liberties Union had asked a district judge down in Texas, James Wesley Hendricks, to issue temporary restraining orders to prevent officials from using the Alien Enemies Act to deport Venezuelan men that were detained in an immigration center down in Texas, in Anson, Texas. So that took place. There was that hearing yesterday. Well, overnight, the Supreme Court of the United States, in an unsigned order, which is the way, by the way, that most orders come unsigned agency cases, the Supreme Court temporarily blocked the Trump administration from deporting another group of Venezuelan immigrants, illegal immigrants, accused of being gang members using the Alien Act. So the government is directed not to remove any member of the putative class of detainees from the United States until further order of the court. That's all they said. So it is temporarily on hold. Now, I would not read too much into this. The court is obviously, the highest court in the land, obviously aware of this, and this goes to this business with Boasberg and his power grab and the power grab of these other district court judges. So the Supreme Court is basically saying, time out. We're looking at this. The court is going to have a ruling on it. We are looking at this, is the court. We're looking at this. Now, I am hopeful that that will turn out in favor of the administration. I must also admit that there might be some irritation with the president, with the actions of the administration regarding the courts. We already know that Chief Justice John Roberts was incensed. How dare Donald Trump and others actually talk about the judge in this case as Boasberg, who inserted himself into American foreign policy, who, by the way, seems to be handpicked to handle cases involving the Trump administration, and that has yet to be looked at. Some of these are supposed to happen on a random, these judges selected on a random basis. It seems that Boasberg names comes up on cases affecting the administration policy in ways that defy a random selection, but that has yet to be thoroughly examined. So, the court is looking at it. There may be, and I would not put it past, look, folks, this is a struggle between the executive branch and the judicial branch over power. It is also a struggle between the Trump administration and the legislative branch to a degree over power. This is all happening at once. And we, of course, will keep our eye on it. 800-848-9222 is how you reach us. James Golden, Saturday Morning Vibe. Urging you to keep it right here. Yes, my friends, Easter is tomorrow. You know, yesterday we spent some time at the beginning of the weekday program talking about the significance of Good Friday. And I got an obituary from a dear friend of mine. He did not give me permission to say it was from him, so I won't, but he's a very dear friend of this program. And he sent me an obituary. The obituary is dated 33 AD. And it is from the Jerusalem Times. Obituary section 33 AD. Obituary for Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, 33 of Nazareth, died Friday on Mount Calvary, also known as Golgotha, the place of the skull, betrayed by the Apostle Judas. By the way, I briefly leave the obituary to say there's a gospel of Judas that exists that casts a somewhat different light on that. But anyway, the obituary says betrayed by the Apostle Judas. Jesus was crucified by the Romans by order of ruler Pontius Pilate. The causes of death were crucifixion, extreme exhaustion, severe torture, and loss of blood. Jesus Christ, a descendant of Abraham, was a member of the house of David. He was the son of the late Joseph, a carpenter in Nazareth, and Mary, his devoted mother. Jesus was born in a stable in the city of Bethlehem, Judea. He is survived by his mother Mary, his faithful apostles, numerous disciples, and many other followers. Jesus was self-educated and spent most of his adult life working as a teacher. Jesus occasionally worked as a medical doctor, and it is reported that he healed many patients. Up until the time of his death, Jesus was teaching and sharing the good news, healing the sick, touching the lonely, feeding the hungry, and helping the poor. Jesus was most noted for telling parables about his Father's kingdom and performing miracles, such as feeding over 5,000 people with only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, healing a man who was born blind. On the day before his death, he held a Last Supper celebrating the Passover feast, at which he foretold of his death. The body was quickly buried in a stone grave, which was donated by Joseph of Arimathea, a loyal friend of the family. By order of Pontius Pilate, a boulder was rolled in front of the tomb. Roman soldiers were put on guard. In lieu of flowers, the family has requested that everyone try to live as Jesus did and believe in him. Donations may be sent to anyone in need. And that was the obit that was sent to me yesterday. I thought it was quite, as I said, there were some things historically. You know, I have a copy of it. It's the Gospel of Judas is from the Dead Sea Scrolls. And, you know, it's the amazing thing is that there's a lot in the Dead Sea Scrolls that are still not widely known that are coming up. But one of the things, the idea of the Gospel of Judas is that Judas was actually the most faithful of the disciples. I'm not getting into theology and telling what to believe and what not to believe, but that is why he was given the task by his master to follow through, so that the prophecies, so that what had to happen did happen. And it's a point of view. And there is text that is thousands of years old, Dead Sea Scrolls, that is, quote unquote, the Gospel of Judas. And it's a remarkable story inside. If you, now I haven't read the whole thing. It is difficult reading when you read these sort of things. So I started it, and, you know, I have to pay attention to so many other things. I still have it. I'm going to go back and try to read through this more and more. But I gave you the general thesis is that Judas wasn't the scumbag, the world's worst, horrible human being, that he was part of a divine mission as an apostle, and et cetera, et cetera. That's what that is. And again, I'm not telling people what to believe, suggesting what to believe in any way. Your religious views, your beliefs are your own. I had an interesting note yesterday as I was talking about Good Friday from a person I love very, very dearly. And she, I would say it's a she because I won't identify her. She sent me, she said, "Hey, James, listen, unfortunately, Easter is a pagan man-made term. It goes back to the goddess of fertility, Ishtar. What it should be is Happy Resurrection Day." She says this whole pagan ritual is why bunnies and Easter eggs are still used as the celebration thing. Again, I'm not telling people what to believe. You believe what you choose to believe, what you study, what you think is right. But there are just all sorts of views about these things. One thing that I think we cannot ever lose track of, though, is how, just like I opened the show talking about the American Revolution and how the bigger picture isn't that we are still a divided nation. The bigger picture is what the world looks like after the American Revolution. One thing that can definitely be said, no matter what your belief, no matter what your religious affiliations are, no matter, and that is fine. I don't argue with anybody about matters of the spirit. That's between you and God. And if you choose to believe there is no God, that's between you and God, who you don't believe in. But one thing can definitely be said. What happened on that day, some 2,000 plus years ago, on Mount Calvary was instrumental in changing the world in ways that could not have been foreseen other than by the power that created this world. Because it is so transformative, and the brutality and everything else surrounding what took place on Good Friday, the message of love and loving people that don't necessarily love you, and this message that came from this one being from Nazareth and has transformed the world. And, even, again, I'm not telling people what to believe. And I also made it a point yesterday, said to say, and I do believe this too, there are so many other spiritual, holy figures throughout history. I don't care whether you're talking about Buddha, you can talk about what goes on in Jainism, Hinduism, Sikhism. If you go through history, you will find men, all ages, all religions, whose lives are built on their connection with the Creator. And you find some of the most beautiful writings and teachings and worldviews. But one thing cannot be denied is that this worldview that came to the world over 2,000 years ago transformed the world. James Golden, Snerdley. We do have some audio to get to, and we may do some of it later in the show, but I want to run through a few things. This Chris Van Hollen, this thing has turned almost into a joke, and it's tragic because so much energy has been put into this mission. And the stories, Chris Van Hollen is back telling us today, was telling us yesterday, how depressed and how traumatized Mr. Garcia was to be in prison in isolation. Maryland deportee told Senator he had been in isolation in El Salvador. Senator Chris Van Hollen said Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia, who was deported and incarcerated in El Salvador, was reported to have been transferred weeks after being in maximum security prison. The story is that this poor guy was traumatized by being in isolation. It was traumatic. And the sympathy just drips and pours from every Democrat that you see. And they're out having, now it's Margaritaville, the photo ops out of them. They're making sure to tell everybody, we didn't drink the margaritas. And it goes on and on and on with this story. And you find none of the same compassion from any of these Democrats about the trauma that American families, and it doesn't have to be just American, that families who are the victim of these illegal criminal gangs, there's not 1 ounce of sympathy for anybody that has suffered at the hands of these terrorists. That is what they have been defined as now, these terrorist gangs that have entered America on Democrat Party watch. Let's go to cut 3. Chris Van Hollen, Democrat Supremo.
Kara, really remarkable details in terms of describing. Let's be honest, those photos were first consumption on social media.
Sure,
right?
that's what they're designed for.
This is what the argument is. This is actually a CNN panel.
If we'd actually taken a drink of those margaritas, there would have been a little indentation in that line of salt.
Right, well, this is where we are,
what
right?
they're
Chuck and I were just saying that. And the thing is, this is where we are, because everything is done in these narratives, in these reductive narratives. Look, they were drinking and hanging out and partying. And so it's really important that he did say that we did not drink these. One of the things the Democrats don't do as well is understand the reductive
reductive nature of information right now, and therefore they have to push back. We didn't drink the drinks. This is not Margaritaville, et cetera, et cetera. And so I thought it was good for him to explain what the situation was. It doesn't matter. There'll be a conspiracy theory about it anyway.
Yeah, and so, yeah, here you can see, this is why he was referencing it. It's a little hard to even see, but it's the
but
one
I
with
see
the
what
little,
he's talking about. You
right,
see,
the
there's
cherry.
there's no.
Yeah,
there's a cherry. This is what they're arguing about. There was a cherry in the drink.
I'm sorry.
On the table.
If we could get the whole, there we go.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see, and again, Van Hollen was saying that rim, he wasn't sure if it was salt or it was sugar. The President Bukele referenced them as margaritas. They don't really appear to be that way, at least the way we know them here in the U.S. But again, Van Hollen noting you can't see this. I mean, Mo, to this broader point, I mean, this is where we are. I will say there was some criticism of Van Hollen for these optics. He clearly felt like he needed to clear it up.
President Trump responds to a reporter asking the right Van Hollen question. This is cut 9. Now, he's just commenting on the reporter, but listen to the question. Great question. Cut 9.
Sir, go ahead, please.
Photos have emerged of Senator Van Hollen sipping what appears to be margaritas with Abrego Garcia down in El Salvador. Do you encourage other Democrats to fly down to El Salvador to meet with this illegal alien who's an accused wife?
I like this guy. See, now this is the kind of a reporter we like. There aren't enough of them. We got to get some more of them.
Very quickly before we head off to the break, Katie Pavlich weighed in as well, cut 6. She was on Fox.
The question that Dana asked was, why did Chris Van Hollen pick this particular person to completely defend, to go to El Salvador, to have this big show? And the answer is because this is his constituent. This is who he sees, this illegal alien gang member who beat his wife, was accused of being a suspicious human trafficker that the Democrats in Maryland and the Democrats at the federal level completely allowed to continue that behavior for years. He's lecturing about deception, which is pure projection. And the question about why he's doing this comes back to me, because it's hard to wrap your brain around why he would do this, is that he's running for president. He wants to run for president, so he's looking at his constituency. Democrats have completely lost the voters they used to have, and they're looking at the people they brought in, and they're saying, we're going to completely erase the line between citizenship of the United States of America and being here illegally, which Jessica just perfectly laid out why it doesn't matter. He said residents of this country. He didn't say citizens of this country. So Democrats for years have tried to destroy that so they can then import this new constituency, which they are defending in Maryland, in El Salvador, and this is what they're doing with it.
This episode is brought to you by Loom by Atlassian. Are you feeling stuck at work? Get your team unstuck with Loom video messaging and move work forward. Use Loom to simultaneously record both your screen and yourself to share a quick update, provide feedback, train a colleague, and everything in between. Plus, add Loom AI to your meetings for instant written notes and recordings. Try Loom today at Loom.com. That's LOOM.com.
This episode is brought to you by GM Genuine Parts and AC Delco. Get the most out of your vehicle with GM Genuine Parts and AC Delco original equipment. The only parts designed, engineered, tested, and backed by General Motors. You can find your perfect fit for most makes and models and choose from 3 tiers of parts, including GM OE or gold and silver aftermarket parts. Visit gmparts.com for more information.
We're shipping Mother's Day gifts with a rapid-fire round of questions. Ready?
Yes. My gift. Can you pack it?
Yep.
Ship it?
Yes.
Guarantee it?
Of course.
Oh, send gift baskets?
For sure.
Protect electronics? Dog-proof it? Return it if they hate it?
Yes, no, and yeah.
Are you the UPS store?
Hey, we have a winner!
Visit the upsstore.com/guarantee for full details. Most locations are independently owned. Product services, prices, and hours of operation may vary. See Center for details. The UPS store. Visit a store today.
Your snacking routine can get a little dull. Time for an Oikos remix. Like a crunchy storm of sea salt praline pretzels, dark chocolate, and butter toffee, showering down into a smooth, creamy yogurt. Enjoy 3 Oikos remix varieties with epic mix-ins and 11 grams of complete protein per 4.5-ounce serving. See remixyogurt.com.
Clarence, welcome. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Mr. Snerdley. I just wanted to say that obituary kind of diminished Jesus Christ and who he was. He faced Good Friday is important because he died on that cross for all our sins who believe in him. And if he did not die on the cross, Easter would have no significance because he could not be resurrected. So that was one problem I had.
First of all, hold, Clarence, take a breath. The obit was published, quote unquote, on the day of the death, prior to Easter Sunday. It is part of a story. It is designed to be that was published 33 A.D. on the day of the death, before the resurrection. So that was the point of it. Let me bring him back up, Clarence. Okay?
Whether it's a story or not, a lot of things are done to diminish what Christianity
Okay,
is all
Clarence,
about.
I hear you. There was no way that this was meant as a diminishment of anything. I'm sorry you got that from it. But, hey, people have different opinions, and yours is certainly welcome. Thank you. Appreciate it. Peter, in Connecticut, you're up next.
Yes. Good morning, sir. You were talking about Garcia being removed to El Salvador. What happened is that he came to the United States illegally, applied for political asylum. His case was denied. He appealed the case to the Board of Immigration Appeals. It was denied. Then he was offered withholding of removal because he admitted that he's a member of a gang that could be killed by another gang. So he admitted himself after he exhausted all the due process in the United States. And then he was offered to stay here based on withholding of removal. And the withholding of removal is conditional, that you can be removed from the United States anytime if you change the condition, if the conditions change, meaning that if we have any suspicions that you may be harmful to the United States, you will be removed because that is not a permanent offer to remain in the United States. And when I hear these Democrats that he's from Maryland, he's an illegal residing in the United States, we are enticing illegals to come here for the benefits that we offer. We are not doing the right thing for the citizens of this country. Where was this senator when American citizens were being held by Hamas? Did he ever travel to Gaza to take care of those American citizens?
Did he even travel in his own state to meet with the family of, like, the family where they lost the mother of 5 children to another illegal? Did he even go that far? Another illegal. Did he even go that far? He won't even go within his own state to visit with people who have been traumatized by illegal entry into the United States. He's grandstanding. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it is. And it's really insults all of us who came to the United States legally, waiting online for many, many months to come here after being processed in various refugee camps, and then having this guy coming over here illegally and claiming to be United States American to a certain extent, and having a United States senator and the Democrats fighting on his behalf. What an insult to every American, including us who were not born here.
Amen. I got to leave it there, my friend, because we are at the end of the first hour. Our number uno is in the can. Our number duo is coming up. Treat with us as we go into the next hour. Princess Diana will be here. So whatever you do not go away. Keep it right here. James Golden, Snerdley, Saturday Morning Vibe. Glad you're with us. Have that second cup of coffee and stay right where you are. Welcome, my friends, to our number duo on this Easter weekend, 2025. So please, we have a little change in the lineup. Usually this is when we check in with our very own Lizzie Radabali. Lizzie will be joining us next hour. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, we are so pleased to have with us the authority like no other when it comes to analysis. The nest of all things good.
It's time for Radio Royalty with James Golden and America's Princess of Policy, Princess Di.
The Princess of Policy and so much more. Her Royal Highness is with us. Your Majesty, welcome. How are you this morning?
Sir James.
Yes,
How
yes,
are you?
yes. I am hanging in there. Somehow or another, maybe by a thread, maybe by a rope. Oh, no, not that. Not yet.
Oh, dear. Well, thank you for accommodating me. I am flying to parts unknown, my royal kingdom, early this morning, so thank you for letting me come on early.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, you have to as you visit the vast provinces of your kingdom, my darling. Now, listen, we've got yesterday. I'm so happy that you said, yeah, let's talk about this tomorrow, because yesterday I was incensed at an article from the Associated Press. Law firms, universities, and now civil society groups are in Trump's sights for punitive action. And this is all based on this idea that these poor people, these poor groups, Donald Trump is just the evil, Terminator. He's waging his war of retribution on these innocent people. And they spend a lot of time talking about this Washington-based crew. It could be a devastating financial blow if Donald Trump takes money away from Crew. It could be devastating, his perceived political foes. And these people, these alleged journalists, don't even go to who these people are, who they were. They just say they're the ethics watchdog organization, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, Crew, and how evil Trump wants to take money from them.
Well, you and I have talked about how Trump has decided in his second term, after having 4 years to analyze the situation, to basically go after the left funding and networks, root and branch. And so the left, who has never had this happen to them before, is just howling. They can't believe it. And they're trying to gin up anger among the public, and it's not working. And they are just dismayed. A couple of weeks ago, there was a Politico piece, The Great Grovel, how Trump forced elite institutions to bend to his will. And this is basically how, Trump has used the power of government money, which has been taken gladly by all these quote unquote elite institutions. And Trump is basically saying, I'm turning off the spigot because you people are not, as you claim to be, nonprofits and non-governmental organizations and civil society groups, which sounds so innocuous and helpful and wonderful, when in fact they are hard left and, have been involved in punishing their political enemies for decades. And we're talking about elite institutions like the universities, the law firms, environmental groups, the supposed ethics watchdog Crew, the Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics, as you mentioned, which was founded by Norm Eisen, whose name you may not be familiar with, but he is behind almost all of the lawfare against Trump since 2015. So, he started in on that way before. And, this was a Clintonian organization for many years. David Brock ran it. So this idea that this poor, civil society group, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics, these people have been absolutely destructive to our society and have done everything possible to shut up conservatives in the public square for a long time. And Trump basically said enough. And your money is going away. And they cannot believe it. And so this has been a wonderful fight to have. Now, you mentioned this was an AP story, which was, worried about all of this destruction from Trump. Did you hear about the AP outcome of the court case?
Well, I do know this, that the court have pretty much said that, yeah, they have to be part of the press pool, and that then the Trump administration has done what they're calling workarounds, what the press is calling workarounds, to make sure that the AP doesn't have just free reign. Now, you tell me what I'm missing here.
Well, that's pretty much it. I mean, the story is from Trump really being annoyed that the AP refused to call the Gulf of America the Gulf of America. And so he basically said, okay, you're not going to be, part of the Oval Office briefings or on the plane. And, of course, AP sued. They won the case. The judge said that any time you have similar people in or similar journalist organizations in these spaces, you have to allow the AP. And so what Trump did, which is very Trumpy, he basically said none of the wire services are going to be special then. They used to have a designated 3 wire services, AP, Reuters, and Bloomberg, who would be always in these interactions with Trump. And so the rest of the journalists had to rotate in. So when the court case supposedly was lost by Trump, he basically said, all right, you got to rotate in with the other 30. And so they lost their spot, all of them, all of the wire services. And so the AP was so mad that none of their fellow journalists had stood up for them because everyone is fighting on so many different fronts with Trump that they're all in, trying to defend themselves. And that was the subject of the great grovel, that Politico piece I mentioned, because Trump was able to successfully get these law firms to, quote unquote, bend to his will, which meant that he basically said, you're going to do pro bono work for veterans and for causes that are not just left wing. And they agreed to it. And so, Of course, they wanted to survive. And, the journalists are left outraged that no one is forming the resistance. And that is what they're starting to cry about, the resistance. And you had highlighted the Wall Street Journal piece. Trump is taking on America's institutions, but resistance is building. And so they are cheering these little embers and hoping the Republican lawmakers help them.
Now, I got to just mention, we got to go to a break because I want time. You have a soundbite, and I want to get to the soundbite and the story behind it. I want to leave time for that. But I have to say, Karl Rove the other day, never mind. I'll just get to that next week. You and I'll just hold the story because he wrote a piece in the Wall Street Journal that pretty much there's Trump fatigue. And I'm just like, Karl, what? Where?
They're trying to gin that up everywhere, you say. So many, Trump voters regret it. They are peeling away from Trump, and they're making that up because it's not happening. But a lot of the establishment Republicans, this Wall Street Journal piece you highlighted, Pete Wehner, our old friend, is quoted basically as part of the Trump resistance. So they are still trying to do what they did the first term, which is to do anything to stop Trump's popularity. And it is not taking hold this time, even though they keep writing articles, the resistance is building. It's really not.
And thank you. And let's take a quick break. James Golden, Snerdley with Princess Diana. We are coming back because we've got something that you just have to hear. And I want the backstory. English musician Alan Price, this day was born. Keyboards with the Animals. Of course, this was their big one back in 1964. House of the Rising Sun. James Golden, Snerdley. Keep it right here. Our Saturday Morning Vibe continues. James Golden and Snerdley with you. It is our Saturday Morning Vibe. Heavenly birthday today for Bernie Worrell, a keyboardist, composer, founding member of Parliament Funkadelic. I mean, they were amazing. 2 different record companies, 2 different groups at the same time. One group, of course, Parliament, the other one, another label, Funkadelic. Basically the same guys. Great idea. And also, again, he was a solo artist. Amazing musician, Bernie Worrell. Funkadelic. Parliament. James Golden with the Princess Diana. Yeah. You sent us a soundbite from Secretary Sean Duffy at the U.S. Merchant Marine Academies. Who even remembers that we have U.S. Merchant Marines? And they do incredible work.
Yes, they do. Do you have that soundbite?
We have it. We're ready for you. Let's listen, and then you can explain it to us, okay?
Okay.
This academy has been neglected for way too long. Right? There's way too long. And so the Vice Admiral and I had a chance to tour this academy, and I got to tell you what, I'm a little bit shocked. What, you guys have mold in the places that you live? Yes. Did I hear you didn't have hot water? But the problem is you guys haven't had a focus of a secretary to say, we're going to turn this around. We're going to invest the money that you all deserve. And so, as I've got to meet you, I am so incredibly impressed at how smart you all are, how strong you all are, and you don't deserve to have an academy that's dilapidated. The president, I know, because I've seen it, cares about shipbuilding and he cares about mariners. Because he understands that if we don't build ships and sail ships in America, we can't be a global power. I am going to fight my ass off to make sure you all get the respect and the money that this academy deserves. By the way, can I ask one? Could we bring Jesus up from the basement? Could we bring Jesus up? Let's not put Jesus in the basement.
Okay, Princess Diana, please explain this to us. What is all going on in this cut?
Well, this has been such an education for me because I was, that quote about bringing Jesus up from the basement went around on X, and so I looked into it, and the story is phenomenal. There is a painting. It's called Christ on the Water. It's also known as Jesus and Lifeboat. It was painted in 1944 by a merchant mariner named Hunter Wood, and it depicts an image of Jesus and merchant seamen adrift in a lifeboat after being torpedoed in the Indian Ocean during World War II. The painting was done to commemorate over 9,000 merchant Marines who lost their lives in World War II. And so I looked into, what is the Merchant Marine Academy and what are they? Apparently, this is almost considered a fourth branch of the military, and they have supported every war since the Revolutionary War. This was to establish the Merchant Marine was the second act of Congress of our country. And so what they do is they are in charge of piloting all of the shipping from the American flagships. And they also are then part of the military when we are at war. They do the logistics, they do the supply chains, they do all of the support work because they are well-trained shipmen. And so there is the Merchant Marine Academy in New York, which is where they train midshipmen. They are the elite of this group, and this is a government-operated thing because then they donate 5 years of their lives to either being in the Navy or the Coast Guard, and then they, from that point on, have their training. So this is a wonderful and important part of Trump's revigoration of transportation, air, land, and sea, all over for both commercial, for the strength of America, and military use. So this particular academy is where the nexus is between the military and the commercial success. And we have just declined tremendously. In all of these things, we have allowed our naval and seafaring talents, which were worldwide and dominant, to basically disappear, and we've given it away to a lot of other people. And so that's why the secretary went to this academy to say, this is important to Trump. We are going to train you because we're going to build ships and we're going to need trained people to then navigate the ships. But he was surprised, Secretary Duffy, when the reaction he got was from tremendous on bringing the painting that the Biden administration had put in the basement of this institution because a military religious freedom foundation group complained. And at the time, Secretary of Transportation Buttigieg made them put curtains on it, and then they moved it to the basement. And so this has been just bothered the people who had been going through this academy, and they wrote a 4,500 signed petition demanding the historic artwork be uncovered and a plaque describing the historical significance of the painting be placed alongside it. And so this is the first time that this became even public, when this eruption of joy came from this audience, and then that went viral on social media. People are not aware of any of this in the world that is happening in our country. And so the Christian Post, which of course has the best information as religious outlets, said, quoted a midshipman, said, the painting of Christ ministering to desperate merchant mariners at sea is a big deal to me personally because he came to see it as a symbol of God's faithfulness to him as he feared sinking academically. He said he prayed under the image when he was afraid he was going to fail. I remember many times when I used to pray underneath the painting when I was on the verge of failing a class or had a big test. I was worried. I prayed underneath that painting when it used to be. And it is very significant, important, and needs to be brought back. And that is such a good story for Easter weekend, that men try and put Jesus away, but we're bringing him back from the basement.
Wow. Wow, wow. On that note, we have to depart. Happy Easter, Princess Diana. Thank you. What a wonderful story.
Very inspirational. Have a wonderful Easter weekend, and I will look forward to being with you next time.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, our very own Princess Diana. We're coming back. Keep it right here. 800-848-9222 is how you reach us. 800-848-9222 as the Saturday Morning Vibe continues with you, too.
Now, it's time for Protecting Your Future. Sponsored by Colonial Metals Group. Here's James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
Yes, my friends, Protecting Your Future this week. I took a look at CBS Market Watch, and they have a story that's actually published yesterday, Good Friday. Gold prices soar past $3,300. Does it still make sense to invest in gold now? The story was by J.R. Duran on CBS Market Watch. It begins that it's been a banner year for gold. The metal has crossed the 3,000 per ounce mark, says the story, for the first time in history. It didn't stop there. Continued to climb, surging past $3,500. And here's the analysis that they give. It got there because of several economic factors, including inflation climbing over the last few years, the volatility in the stock market, uncertainty about where interest rates are headed. Things have been looking up recently, though, as the Federal Reserve rate hikes remain paused. Inflation is dropping. The stock market volatility is starting to settle down after some recent swings. They say that, coupled with gold's current rise, could be giving investors pause. Does it really make sense to buy gold when it's sitting above $3,300? Now, they have, by the way, I understand yesterday it might have taken a hit. It took a hit. I don't know how deep. I saw a headline in passing on that I have to go back and look through. But anyway, they said, they point to this guy, Stephen Connors, of Connors Wealth Management. The price of gold is certainly not as low as it was in the past, but it can still be used to provide ample diversification away from traditional asset classes like stocks and bonds. So, of course, this is what you get. Look, folks, you have to make up this decision what's best for you, where you're going to go. But some people are thinking that it is still a great investment if if you have certain needs in your portfolio, as with everything. It still has room to run. I saw Bank of America recently forecast that said it's going to be rising until 2026. So I say all of that to say, we are still in very uncertain times. I don't give economic financial advice. I could take some. I don't give it. But I will say, for those of you that do look, this thing that is happening between the market conditions and gold is interesting to look at as you prepare for your future. Whether you should buy gold, it makes sense. Talk to your financial advisor. But there is room to run, apparently, even though it was, as of at least this story's published yesterday, past the $3,300 per ounce mark. So something to look at, something to keep in mind. James Golden, Snerdley, with you here. Let us see. I wanted to get to this. You know what I meant to? Daggone it. I wanted to ask Princess Diana something. But see whether you can get her, whether she's at the airport already. I don't know. Because if she's not at the airport already, maybe she has time for one other quick question I got to ask her about. This David Hogg thing is blowing my mind. They get this little upstart, David Hogg. They put him up as the vice chair. He's now talking about putting $20 million in the Democrat Party to run against other Democrats, to primary out the old Democrats. And you have some Democrats saying this is a good thing. And it just blows my mind that they're actually going through this. She's there. Princess, thank you. Thank you for coming back. I got to ask you about this. This David Hogg thing is blowing my mind.
Okay, tell me, fill me in.
Excuse me. I don't call people names. This child, David Hogg, is now the vice chair of the Democrat Party.
Right.
He's saying he wants to put up $20 million to get rid of the old guard and bring in some new younger Democrats. And there are some people that are supporting this. I have a little bit of time.
Do you remember when AOC tried to do this exact same thing? When she first came on board, she was just full of vim and vigor, and she was a leftist, and she thought the same things Hogg does, which is the old guard is the problem. They're not fighting hard enough. They're not communist enough. She was going to use her own money to get rid, or that she would raise and get rid of the establishment Democrat Party. And so she was up against Nancy Pelosi and lost that fight badly. She was cuffed politically, and it still remains to this day. She has very little power within that party. She has power within the voters, but same thing is going to happen with Hogg. You can't be part of the Democrat establishment and then try and torpedo it. I believe he will not last very long, but it's amusing.
Okay, well, I think that a lot of people are taking this kid seriously. By the way, you just mentioned AOC. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is right now second to Kamala Harris in the newest presidential poll with Democrats, thanks to her fighting oligarchy tour.
Yes, that's what they want. They want the fighters. And so, that is going to make them a rump party because there are fewer and fewer regular Americans who agree with that we have to side with, gangbangers or, Demis M13s, and that is the constituency group, the thugs and the terrorists that the Democrat Party just loves. And people are just peeling away from that. But that's what the David Hoggs and the AOCs are fighting for. And so I say go for it, because now they're at 21% approval. They're going to go down to single digits.
One can hope. So that presidential polling, 27.5 want Harris, 21.3 want Ocasio-Cortez. And then the person that comes in third is Buttigieg with 14%. Poor Gasm. Gasm only has 6.4.
Well,
He's
that's
single
more than
digits.
he had last time. He's been at the 4s and 3s for a while, so he went up a couple points.
Well, Shapiro is down to 4.6. Mark Kelly, 3.6. This guy Pritzker out of Illinois. The surprise to me is Gretchen. Gretch. Gretchen's only at 3%. I guess she needs to move that file folder, those folders from her face.
Well, that really, as I said, that ended her. But don't forget the dark horse, which is a political term, in my opinion, that Cuomo has a big chance to move up in the race because I think it's obvious he is going to win New York City, the mayorship, and he will then have a platform. And he was very effective during COVID, effective for the Democrat side, effective horribly. He was wrong about everything. But he's a feisty, but he has both constituencies, the establishment part of them, and the fighters. And so I think he's someone to watch.
Yeah, and then they got this guy, this sports guy from ESPN who's running around talking about he wants to maybe run for president. He's got 1%.
Yeah.
Stephen Smith, whatever.
Well, he's
okay. He's entertaining, you say. Okay. Well, please, somebody entertain me, because the Democrats I've been entertained by this Chris Van Hollen thing, but that's just me. I find it very entertaining.
That's been wonderful. That line in the movie, the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where the old guy, the ghost, says, "You have chosen poorly." The Democrats have chosen poorly, and they are going to go over the cliff with all of the terrorists that they're in bed with.
I love it. All right. Thank you again. And again, happy Easter, Princess Di. I wanted to actually get your take on this, because I can't believe this kid. First of all, I can't believe the Democrats put this David Hogg kid in there. But then, we're going to take out the Democrats. I love it.
You always hear stories about the Republicans imploding, the Republicans. It's the Democrats. They are really in a world of hurt right now, which is, as you say, very entertaining.
And very good for America.
Yes.
Thank you much. All right, James Golden, Snerdley. Thank you, Princess Diana. And again, happy Easter. We're going to take a quick break, come back, grab some calls. The guy that knows more about the Beatles than anybody else on the planet, Derek, sent me the news reporting that there is scheduled to be protests against Trump across the country is not news. It's just publicity. Just because a group with a vested interest in the story insists that there will be millions of people protesting in thousands of cities doesn't mean anything is going to happen. It's not news. But it gives those groups in that left-wing cause credibility before they even do one thing. Abso-freaking-lutely. Birthday tomorrow for Ronald Monday, member of the Marcells. 1961's, they did their reboot of this one. Blue Moon went to number 1. Blue Moon, James Golden, Snerdley on Easter weekend. 800-848-9222. That's Marcus Miller playing bass on this. One of the greatest bass players ever, Marcus Miller. He also produced a lot with Luther. Carlos said Luther Vandross. This is Luther Vandross. Yeah, Luther Vandross. Luther Vandross. One of the most amazing singers of all time. This was 1989, his breakout single. It went to 13. It had been released in 1983 in the U.S. and went to number 10. 1989, 13 in the U.K. Luther Vandross, the one, the only Luther. Heavenly birthday is tomorrow for Luther. Died too soon. 2005. I had lunch with Luther. There was a great restaurant called Horn of Plenty in the Village. Record promoter. You want to go to lunch with Luther Vandross, artist we saw? He was with Atco at the time. Yeah, we had great lunch. Luther Vandross. The great Marcus Miller. I want to interview Marcus one day. Just such a great musician. Anyway, let's head to the phones and talk with Rich in Pennsylvania. How are you, Rich?
Thanks for taking my call, James. You hit an emotional chord with me again, because I saw Marcus with the Count Basie Orchestra and Joe Williams at the Bottom Line in 1995. Okay?
Wow!
So you hit me again with a. But I'm calling to thank you and Princess Di for the Coast Guard thing. I was in from 82 to 86. I spent a little over 2 years on the Cutter Point Knoll in New London, Connecticut, and then the remainder of my time on Governor's Island. And I am still furious, one, that they closed the island, and two, that the trade centers are no longer there to see from the island, because every morning when I got up, and you went outside, you can see the trade center standing there majestically. So I want to thank you again for that spot on the Coast Guard, because it hit an emotional spot with me.
Thank you. God bless you, my friend. Thank you so much. And that story hit an emotional chord with a lot of people. And it just goes, Pete Buttigieg. Wow. Donnie in Allenhurst, New Jersey is calling in. Donnie, hello.
Hi, Mr. Golden. How are you doing? First-time caller. Always been a great fan of you and Rush. In any event, yesterday I was listening to you late afternoon. I'm a Catholic Christian. I was going to a fish market in Neptune for obvious reasons, and to recall the sacrifice. And I heard you. I think I heard you correctly. But you had said in passing it was a mistake, right? An honest mistake, obviously a common mistake. But I think you said, kind of as an afterthought, you said you were profoundly mentioning the significance of Easter. But you had mentioned at the end of that segment that Christmas was actually the holiest day in the Christian calendar, and that's just obviously incorrect. It's Easter.
What I said was, no, I did not say that, so I'm glad you give me a chance to correct what I didn't say, what I never said. What I said was that there were 3 high holy days, in that one would have to think that the 3 of the high holiest days in the Christian calendar would have to be Christmas, Easter, and Good Friday. And beyond that, I don't, get into any. Now, Kelvin actually took it upon himself, our dear Kelvin, and I'm so appreciative to have he and Carlos with me every week, almost every week. Carlos once in a while skips out of the country and doesn't tell us. But Kelvin looked it up on Google. Kelvin doesn't do that. Kelvin, you Googled it. What did your Googling turn up? Mm-hmm.
It said Easter was the highest holy day of Christianity.
Okay. That's what Google says. Anyway, Donnie, I so appreciate your call. Thank you. Let me just give you the last word here.
Yeah, I appreciate everything you mentioned. I really do. I was semi-sensitized to the subject because this is such a stellar, let's just say lunar year, because the Eastern Orthodox, the Catholics, and even the Passover week fully correlate for the first time in memory this year. So I was somewhat sensitive to the dating because it's such a great celebration. I was a little bummed out in my own town personally that there was only Happy Passover for the week. We could have really joined forces. Yeah, I know. It's a big yeah, I know. It's cringeworthy. I know.
Well, Donnie, thank you, my friend. God bless you. I hope you have a wonderful Easter weekend, and thank you for the call. Ernest in upstate New York, you are up next. Bo Snerdley, Saturday Morning Vibe. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for taking the call, Bo. I want to address something that you alluded to earlier in the program, and you were. I just want to make clear you weren't advocating for any one particular religion, but you did mention. I believe you mentioned Buddha and some other ancient Mideastern religions. Okay, so my question is this. Did any one of these deities, did anyone ever proclaim themselves to be God?
This is you're asking you're asking a very incredibly profound question, which, number one, I am not qualified to answer. I will tell you that I read from many different aspects. And yes, you will look at what their believers believe, but what they say or don't say can be very different than what their believers say. And I'm not going down that rabbit hole. I will tell you that people need to do their own investigation. But yes, I read from everybody. Yes, I mentioned Buddha. And I think reading the works of Buddha is wonderful. Yeah, I read from Buddha. I've read from works from some of the 10 Sikh gurus. I think their words are absolutely wonderful. I have tried to read through and understand the Bhagavad Gita. I've tried to read through, by the way, and try to understand the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Egyptian Book of the Dead. I've got a whole library of books that are based around spiritual beliefs and spirituality. And I think that people need to make their own determination as to the way that they have their relationship with God. Period. I don't tell anybody what to do. I don't tell anybody what to read. I don't tell anybody what to believe. I don't tell anybody what to seek out. But I will say this. As I said, the reason all of this came up because I was talking about, as I did yesterday, Good Friday, the fact that one cannot argue, regardless of whatever you believe, whoever you believe, the impact that the life of the Nazarene has had on the entire world. It cannot be argued. That impact is there for all to see. And that did not happen by accident. You know, there were so many people that the Roman Empire crushed, as empires do, and empires come and go. Every empire comes and goes in history. But there were so many voices that were crushed in the Roman Empire. How did this one? Despite the efforts of the power of the Roman Empire, which at that time was the most powerful governmental force in the world, how did it not crush this rebellion out? Why is it that this rebellion that got started then could not be crushed out? There are a lot of things that are debatable, that are arguable, and I don't get into arguing with people about their religion. I'm not about that. Don't want their beliefs, their faith. Not what I do. But I will mention that I think it is beyond debatable that the impact of what took place that Friday that is known as Good Friday, those over 2,000 years ago, had an amazing impact on the world. It's undeniable. Oh, I just heard from my dear friend, my dearest friend in the classical music side, the conductor, Patrick Burns, wishing us all a happy Easter. And yes, Patrick Burns, his amazing music. Maybe we'll play some of that later in the next hour. We have Oasis is always my favorite. We always play some of Oasis. So maybe we'll do that. Anyway. And then I just get another note. I will leave names out of it. Good morning, James. Christmas is pagan. See, this is why I don't get into any of this stuff. I'm not arguing with people about what they believe. That's your belief? Okay, that's your belief. Not arguing. And I got a big shout out, yes, to Marcus Miller, who's just one of the most amazing bassists in the world. James Golden, Snerdley with you. It is our number duo that has just found its way into the can. Our number trio is coming up. Lizzie's going to join us. Stick around. Don't go away. Welcome, my friends. Our number trio is here. The Saturday Morning Vibe. If you want to be part of the program this morning, 800-848-9222. Joining us, Red Apple Media's Star Inklet. The Star Inca. She is also the voice of her generation. She is the voice of the working man and woman of her generation. Our very own Lizzie Radabali. Lizzie, how are you this morning? Lizzie, I can't stop laughing already. Lizzie.
We are in a silly mood this morning. I mean, the news is just ridiculous. The news.
Lizzie, how many times are these suckers going to fall for it?
Oh, my gosh. You know, this is my favorite genre of news story. This is like... Anytime I see a story like this, I'm like a kid in a candy store. Like, my eyes light up. I get so happy. I just immediately I look for the Reddit. I look for what people are saying online. How upset are people? And oh my God, this one is a doozy.
Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing at people's misery, Lisa? Lizzie, why? Why?
This is a bit of a doozy. I mean, I don't take any pleasure in pain. I'm not one of those freaks. But I do have to say that sometimes you just have to sit back and be like, wow, thank God that wasn't me. Thank God I was a bit smart.
What are we doing? We're talking about the Mr. We're talking these people paying $1,000.
Yup,
$1,000.
$1,000 for the Mr. Beast immersive experience, the unforgettable event that was held at the Las Vegas Resorts World. And yeah, unforgettable it was. I mean, this is going to haunt him for the rest of his life, probably. this fiasco. So
okay, so wait a minute. So you buy into this social media hype. Mr. Beast is having a 3-day immersive experience in Las Vegas.
Yes.
So you have nothing better to do with your $1,000 and say, okay, I want to go and be part of the Mr. Beast 3-day immersive experience in Las Vegas. And Lizzie, what'd you get for your $1,000?
Bupkis. You got absolutely nothing. Like, the thing is, so when immersive experiences, I just have to go on a quick little tangent here and say, anytime that somebody is advertising to you an immersive experience, that is a scam. That is a scam unless they are actually transporting you to where they say they are. Like, unless it is a immersive beach experience and you're actually at the beach, you are not being immersed in anything, okay? Most of the time, it's just a bunch of projectors onto blank walls, music playing over some poor quality speakers, or, and always cheap merch or like horrible food that they throw into this. So immersive experience, that should be an automatic red flag to any consumer out there. Do not waste your money on something that says, oh, we're going to offer an immersive experience. Like, how about you immerse yourself in the real world and go out and have a real experience? These immersive experiences turn up most of the time being absolutely nothing. I've been to one myself. I went to a Van Gogh immersive experience, and it was exactly like I said, just a bunch of projectors displaying Van Gogh art onto the walls. It's like, okay, like, now what? So this immersive experience in Las Vegas, it was billed as a collaboration with this super, super mega popular, I think he leads right now in subscriptions on YouTube, Mr. Beast. He also has his own Netflix show, so like he has kind of broken the barrier of YouTube. Like, a lot of people are constrained to the YouTube platform. He's actually been able to break free and break into the mainstream. He also has like his own chocolates or something he sells at Walmart. Anyways, so this guy, he's a pretty big deal. And I thought that he was a big deal with kids. So imagine my surprise when I see a Las Vegas experience with Mr. Beast and people are getting scammed out of that. Like, I had no idea that he actually even had an adult fan base, to be honest, that would be able to go to Las Vegas, because this was, of course, a 21-plus event. I mean, this is in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so,
well, what happened? You have some audio. What happened?
Okay, well, actually, we have something from a fan who shared her firsthand experience.
I started crying, and then I ran into other people that also were crying. I really just want my Mr. Beast experience that I paid for.
So what did they pay for? It's a 3-day event that was supposed to have, they get exclusive merchandise. They get to stay at this hotel for 3 nights. And they also get the ability to enter this like $10,000 raffle. So they paid $1,000 to potentially win $10,000. And also they were supposed to have some meet and greets, meet Mr. Beast, and, take pictures. He wasn't even there. He wasn't even at the event. So,
He didn't even show up.
He did not even show up. He was not even there. And the best part is the hotels. So this exclusive merch that they were gifted, it was a mystery bag. So the thing about Mr. Beast is like a lot of his content involves like challenges and making people do things. Like he's locked people in like a grocery store for a week and like had them survive and stuff like that. So he's like a big challenge guy. So the challenge on this experience was you had to wait in your hotel room for a mystery bag. And some people, they had to wait up to 2 days. We actually heard from a fan who also recounted her experience waiting in her hotel room. This is that fan.
I was told to wait in my room for 2 days, waiting for a package to come. And so I legit spent 2 days in Vegas in a room doing nothing, just waiting for a Mr. Beast package to come. That was a box of chocolates.
So it just ended up being a box of chocolates that you could have gotten at Walmart. And I love the way that she says it. Like, she's like, Mr. Beast package. Like, you paid $1,000, lady. Like, you paid $1,000 for that Mr. Beast package. You better stand behind it. You better stand 10 toes down on that box of chocolates.
Wait, Lizzie, stop. Lizzie, stop. You pay $1,000. You pay $1,000,
and then you're trapped.
You go to Vegas. You're in Sin City,
and you can't.
And I'm sorry for those of you celebrating. And then you have to stay in your room.
You're a prisoner
to wait for a package in Sin City. You wait for the package. 2 days later, they show up with your mystery package. After you've waited 2 of the 3 days, you're in this immersive experience in your hotel room.
Yeah.
And it's a box of chocolates. It's an immersive experience. It's a box of chocolate.
Man, that would make Forrest Gump cry. Like, seriously, life really is crazy like that.
I can't stand it.
I mean, and yeah, once again,
okay.
They also get a bunch of merch. They were supposed to get exclusive merchandise. Turns out it was all clearance items from his website. So he just like went into his overstock of his merch storage unit and just, gave it to these poor suckers. I mean, like, I really do feel bad for these people in some sense, but also, why is a YouTuber hosting Las Vegas events? I mean, isn't this weird that we've gotten to this point in society?
I don't know.
And he also, I do want to say,
I don't know.
He has not made a formal statement. He has not, addressed this head on, but he did tweet out something. He posted on X saying that, hey, this was not what we were supposed to do. My team is on it. And he says, I'd love to personally make it up to you and anyone else by inviting everybody affected to tour my studio. Like, why was that not the first thing? Like, why was that not the first option? I mean, that sounds like way cooler. That's an immersive experience. I mean, yeah, immerse me in your studio. That should have been the first event. I mean, this is just, man, what a doozy.
Wow. What a doozy. The White House, you sent to me this story. The White House says that it has a tech that has some kind of tech that can manipulate, but I just like the way people say manipulate. That can manipulate, that's demonic. Manipulate time and space. How do you manipulate time and space, Lizzie?
Well, okay, yeah. So the thing is, we don't actually really know what he's talking about. The part of me wants to put on my tinfoil hat and say, what are they hiding? What is the government hiding from us? They're developing something that we don't even know about. But the other part of me, like a lot of people in my generation, I do have to say, we're looking around at all the plane mishaps and all the crashes, and we're wondering, like, how did we even get to the moon? Like, was that actually real? A lot of, I will say,
come on, no, people, not you, no.
I will say a lot of people in my generation more and more are becoming like, moon landing deniers. Like, it just doesn't seem realistic, doesn't seem palpable because, we've grown up in this age of, science kind of on the decline. Science has taken a real nosedive. So to kind of fathom that there's this technology out there does seem a little far-fetched to me, I will say, but this time and space idea, I mean, when will we say technology has gone too far? I mean, I know we're always constantly grappling with ethics and especially with AI nowadays. When will it go too far? I mean, manipulating time and space, that just doesn't sound like a good thing.
Well, the comment was made by White House science advisor Michael Kratsios, and he says that the U.S. has technology that can manipulate time and space. The viral interpretation of his remarks reflects the growing impact of social media in framing public understanding. Meanwhile, the White House hasn't issued a formal clarification, but the speech wording may have been metaphorical, intended to refer to the transformative nature of modern innovation. Yeah. That's what we know so far.
Yeah, and he mentions that,
Lizzie,
the tech has like all these major abilities, but what is the end goal of technology? Is it to like get rid of humans or like get rid of us? I mean, I don't know because it's constantly just putting human control.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?
It is constantly taking stuff that's like out of...
Get rid of us.
Get rid of us. I mean, who's to say that we won't develop a computer so smart that it'll just
So we're going Matrix on everybody now.
Maybe.
So the machines are going to rule and the humans are going to be like...
There's plenty of material
out there. And
we
didn't really land on the moon.
There's plenty of material out there.
We didn't really land...
Yeah, I don't know. There's so many questions to life. Who knows the answers? I don't.
Scientists, by the way, Lizzie, I have my own story here.
Yeah.
Scientists find the strongest evidence yet of life on a distant planet. We're talking about K2-18b. Could be the tipping point. This week, the James Webb Space Telescope and a British U.S. team of research detected signs of two chemicals in this planet's atmosphere. This planet is 124 light years away. Two chemicals in the planet's atmosphere, long considered to be biosignatures, indicating extraterrestrial life. So there's that.
There's so much out in the universe.
There's that.
There's so much out in the universe, and technology. We're constantly trying to take control of things that are out of human control. So you just wonder what's the end goal of all this? What's the end result? What are we going to see? And I was promised flying cars by this time.
This is an interesting question, and here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to answer that question for us, Lizzie, on a future show. What is the end goal? No, seriously, what is the end goal of technology? You raise a great question.
I know, it's much.
I want to hear what your generation thinks the end goal is.
You won't like the answer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bo.
I won't like the answer.
I don't know.
Lizzie, thank you as always.
Thank
Hysterical.
you, Bo.
Are you going to go to the Beast next thing? Lizzie, why don't you do a report from the next invasive, immersive experience from Mr. Beast?
Please, I need to be there. I need to witness this with my own eyes.
I would love that.
I need to be there.
I mentioned earlier Patrick Burns, our friend and conductor. Mr. Beast, this is his. It's called Oasis, and I love it. It's one of my favorites. And we also, Lady B wishes, Lady Benedict, everyone to have a happy Easter as well. We're coming back. Thank you, Lizzie. James Golden Snerdley, it's the Saturday Morning Vibe. Your calls at 800-848-9222. It is Saturday morning, the Saturday Morning Vibe. This week in Staten Island is one of course, the 5 boroughs of New York. A man was busted for starting a fire that damaged 3 Staten Island homes. Threatened the life of one of his elderly neighbors. A woman, 87 years old, had to flee her home because this thing started in the backyard, lit up his house, and then spread to 2 other houses. The man who started this fire admitted it. I started the fire, he said. I was in the backyard at my house, and I lit 2 sex toys on fire. There is now a criminal complaint against Harry Torres, 37 years old. Thankfully, no injuries. This thing didn't just take out 3 houses. It also damaged 2 vehicles. It is not immediately clear how Mr. Torres set fire to the sex toys, which included a rubber vagina, according to police sources. So, a rubber vagina set afire, along with another sex toy, and 3 houses, 2 cars end up in flames. That was one hot rubber vagina. James Golden, Snerdley, your calls are coming up. 800-848-9222 is how you reach us. Keep it right here, of course, my friends. We are coming back with your telephone calls. A little bit later in the program, America's small caffeinated mom, Rhonda Schrock, will be joining us on this Easter weekend. Some of the questions that we have out here, and I asked her in the first hour, what is the American legacy today? Of course, the 250th anniversary of the beginning of the American Revolution. An event that, in my view, changed the entire world that we live in. 800-848-9222. Saturday morning, Easter weekend. Bo Snerdley's Saturday Morning Vibe. The real thing. Keep it right here. Tomorrow is the anniversary of this one, from Elvis Presley going to number 1. Of course, written by Otis Blackwell. And he has a great record, These Are My Songs. This one sold over 2 million copies in 1957. I'm in love. Yep, James Golden with you, Snerdley, the Saturday Morning Vibe. Let's head to the telephones. Let's go to Brookhaven and Joe. How are you, Joe? What's on your mind this morning?
Bo, good morning, sir. Happy Easter to you and everybody. You had mentioned the military tribunal about then FDR set up about the spies that came off of Amagansett, and they came out
That's
of
right.
Ponte. It was Florida. Trump, why doesn't he? It's enough of the Supreme Court. Barrett's, he's unbelievable disappointment. But overnight with the Venezuelans, I know that now that we can't deport them, we got to get rid of these criminals. Now, we declare war on them. They're terrorists. They invaded us. Hey, they're spies. Execute it. If they found they killed people with fentanyl, execute them. You'll see how fast this will stop. 7-panel military tribunal, just like FDR did. They were killed. They were hung, 3 of them, within 30 days when they caught them, the German spies that came off the U-boat.
Folks, this is true. We talked about this a few weeks ago. We had people arguing that we had one Democrat. What sparked that was a Democrat, I forget the pundit's name, who argued that Donald Trump is really acting in a harsh way. He's behaving worse than we ever treated the Nazis, was the quote. And that caused me to go back and remember and then find the supporting story. Wait a minute. We treated Nazis quite differently in World War II. There were Nazis that were involved in a sabotage plot here in America. They were busted. And as Joe here is pointing out, 3 of them were hung within less than a month. The military tribunal found them guilty, went to the gallows. That was over. And that is not how Donald Trump is behaving. That is not how this administration is behaving. Now, what Joe's saying is, hey, let's bring back, these are enemy combatants inside America, is Joe's point. We should deal with them harshly. Now, if you think the courts are having a cow right now, and they are. In fact, earlier today we reported, as many of you know, the Supreme Court has now put a pause on deporting some Venezuelan people under the Aliens Act. They have put a pause on that, waiting. That has to now wait till they issue an order on it. This is in response to multiple challenges that Trump cannot use these wartime powers. We will see. The Supreme Court is going to have to rule on this, and we shall see. But if you think they're having a cow over this, if Donald Trump decided to use military tribunals to deal with these terrorist gangs, I guarantee you almost every liberal district court in America where you have liberal judges who are inclined to insert themselves into matters that they should not, they would all become activated. Would be outrageous according to the left. To many other people, it makes sense. Thank you for the call, Joe. Appreciate you. Victor and Beth Page, you are up next. How are you, Victor?
Hey, I'm good, Bo. A blast from the past. That David Hogg, he emerged from one of the Florida shooting tragedies. And I remember
the Parkland shooting in Florida.
Yeah. Yeah, and Rush nicknamed him David Hogg because he was the camera hog. Well, he nicknamed him Camera Hog, if you recall. Mm-hmm. And I got a kick out of that, pretty much. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You recall that yourself?
Yeah, and that is the same David Hogg, and that's where he came to prominence, folks. It was after the Parkland shooting in Florida, which, by the way, was a complete and utter failure. And people should have been outraged about that shooting in particular. The shooter was well known to police. One of the reasons, and I'm cutting this extremely long story very short, one of the reasons that this shooter was still allowed to roam the streets was because the Obama administration refused to follow through with zero-tolerance law against disciplinary candidates in that school, because disciplining the kids in that school was considered to be racist. And this was the Obama effort to stop what they called a pipeline to prison. So you had this bad actor in the school who was accused multiple times of things that would have suspended him and caused him to been expelled by the school. Instead, he was not flagged to police as being a threat when he should have been, and he ended up, I don't think he was a student at the time of the shooting, if memory serves me right. I may be corrected on that by later, but this is a guy that should have been alerted to the police, and because of the violent trajectory of his life, never been allowed to be anywhere near a weapon. But the Obama administration and their directives precluded the police from being aware of how violent this kid was. Let us go to Zig in Astoria, Queens. Zig, you're up next.
Good morning. I forgot how this came about, but I posted it on X. Why were we taught in school that there were black patriots that ran side by side with Paul Revere. All right.
I don't know why you were taught that in school. We do know that one of the first man, quote unquote, to die in the American Revolution. Now, this wasn't at the Battle of Lexington. Was Crispus Attucks, who was an African American, who was black. That's part of history. I don't know what else you're referring to. And of course, there were many black patriots. In fact, there's a book that is out by a good friend of mine that talks about, the book is about black patriots of the American Revolution. I'll have to get him on and maybe we can talk about that at some point. Yeah, because black people were present. There were black people present in almost every major aspect of American history. And they're not just black people. I mean, there were, America has been a quote unquote melting pot ever since there was an America. If you go back and you look at the history of St. Augustine, for instance, before Florida was admitted into the states, St. Augustine, the oldest city in America, was a multi-ethnic, multi-racial city, and the trading was going on. It was an epicenter of trading in the New World. America has an amazing history, and there are a lot of components to it that we're never taught. We got to take a quick break. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, America's Small Caffeinated Mom will be joining us. What we got here, Carlos?
This is one of my favorite driving songs. It's called American Pie by the one and only, I want to say Don McLean.
Don McLean wrote it. Yeah, I interviewed him. Yeah. And this is the birthday for...
CD player. This is one of the first CDs we had on the first road trip.
Oh, nice. And American multi-instrumentalist Robert Stoner is playing on this. His birthday is today, born in 1948. This is the American classic, as Carlos has indicated. Coming back with America's Small Caffeinated Mom. Keep it right here. Do not go away. James Golden, Snerdley, the Saturday Morning Vibe. Coldplay brings us back. And it is time, ladies and gentlemen, to check in with America's Small Caffeinated Mom, Rhonda Schrock. Hi, Rhonda. How are you?
Good morning, James. I cannot tell you how happy I am to be back with you. I really missed you.
Well, thank you, and we miss you too. Yes, but hopefully you had an enjoyable time out there.
Yes, I did. Yes, we did.
So, good. So what is on your mind this Easter weekend, Rhonda?
Well, every spring, there is a beautiful thing that I see on my way to work. And thank God spring has finally returned here in the frozen tundra. We are beginning to see the signs of life. And one of those signs of life happens at a farm that I drive by every day. They have a flock of sheep. And every spring, I see the ewes out grazing beside the road, and their bellies are swollen. And the next thing I know, that beautiful pasture is dotted with lambs. It is a lovely pastoral scene, and every time I see it, I cannot help but think of the 23rd Psalm, which might be the most beautiful poetry that has ever been written. And the words of it scroll through my mind. I memorized everything in the old King James language, which is ancient, but it's beautiful. And I always think this as I go by. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. And that's what I notice. That's what I ponder as I pass those lambs. Well, Easter, of course, is always about that time. And so I think about new life this time of year. And especially in the last week, James, I began to think about what are the themes of my life personally. What are the underlying themes or kind of identity that I have sort of lived from? And I looked at that in the cold, hard light of day, and some of them have not served me well. Well, I as I rode, I thought about a friend of ours, a very dear friend of ours that Grant and I met one year on vacation. He was a Boston firefighter. His name was Raymond. And he was one of those people, he and his wife, we just instantly just connected with, fell in love with. And as we spent time with them once a year at our annual spot, we would talk about life. We would talk about God. And Raymond would open up and he would share some of his story. The themes of Raymond's life were a lot of pain. He was a man that carried a great deal of pain, a great deal of anger, and then alcoholism. Those were the themes of his life, and they were really paining him. But as we got to know each other better and better, Raymond and we would talk about God, and I would share what I knew about him, and Raymond would listen to me. Well, the last vacation that we ever took, we had a conversation one day about faith, and he said, I just don't understand it. And so I said, Raymond, it's like this. Faith is the cord that you plug into the wall. Your appliances are dead before you put that cord into the wall. You do not have to see the wires in the wall. You don't have to know how electricity works. You only have to have just enough faith that it does work, that you plug it in. And his eyes were just burning into mine. I could tell that he was hearing me, and he was leaning forward, and he said these words, I think I'm ready to try that. Well, we did not know that that trip was the last time we would ever see Raymond alive, because a few months after we all returned from vacation and settled back into our lives, he got a cancer diagnosis, and just a few months before Rush, actually. And it was a very advanced lung cancer. 3 weeks before Raymond died, I was able to speak to him by phone. He was having a good day. He was very clear. And he told me again, he said, I've always, for years, I judged God. Raymond's 16-year-old son had died in a terrible accident, and he held God accountable for his son's death. He said, for years I judged him, but I think that I'm ready to give him a chance. And I said, the big thing, Raymond, is that you're ready to die. And if you die before me, you will beat me to heaven. And he said to me that day in my ear, I will be waiting for you. The theme of Raymond's life changed at the very end of his life. And I know in my heart of hearts that that precious friend of mine switched from the old themes of anger and pain and the alcoholism to a brand new theme, and that was a new life, a new heart, and a new hope. And I know that Raymond has beaten me, and he's waiting for me. I love the story of Raymond. He taught me so many things, and I miss him to this day, but it's because of what happened at Easter that Raymond has beaten me to heaven, and that he is waiting for me there. I want to speak today to the people who think that God is a being who hates human beings, who can barely tolerate we wretched humans with all our sins and shortcomings. And I want you to know that that is the farthest thing from the truth. The truth is that his love for us is so overwhelming. His desire for relationship with us was so great and vast that he did something shocking and unthinkable. And he sent that only son down here to wear a flesh suit, to feel what we felt, to live like we lived, and to die for our sins. Unlike any other religious leader that has ever died for any of his or her followers, Jesus did not stay dead. He was raised again. As I was writing, James, I looked at the picture that I have in our office with our 4 sons, and I thought, how could I possibly ever sacrifice one of them for even one good person, much less a multitude of people who would hate him and reject him and waste his sacrifice. I could never do it. And yet that's what God in his vast love and desire did. And the other shocking part of that is that his son said yes. So just like I would say to one of my sons, I want to say this to our listeners. What is the theme of your life? Is it pain? Is it rejection? Is it failure? Is it even just your own professional accomplishments? Is that what drives you? Are you the black sheep of your family? Maybe you are, and maybe that's paining you, and you're living your life from that framework. The next question, and this is one I routinely ask my boys when they're confused or anxious. Are you peaceful where you are? Do you have peace where you are? With the themes that are running your life right now, if you do not have peace and you are without hope, you can choose a new theme. You can choose a new life. And faith in Jesus is the key that unlocks that door. I have found that key, and I have received Christ into my heart. And James, I wish I could articulate better the comfort and the consolation and the joy of living every day, every hour, every minute with the awareness that Jesus, the living Christ, is with me. And even though things can still be hard and are hard, and my problems have not all gone away, I have the source of light. I have the light of the world living inside of me. I have love in person and peace in person living in me. And so, as the smallest, probably most caffeinated mother in America, I want to invite any listeners who are not happy or peaceful with their old themes to join me in choosing a new one. And that beautiful poetry, the 23rd Psalm, this is the ending for all who, like Raymond and like me and like my sons and my husband, for all who have chosen that tiny bit of faith that plugs into the source of power. This is your ending. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. Happy Easter, James.
Wow. Happy Easter, Rhonda. Thank you so much, as always. And by the way, you just mentioned something in that just triggered something I've been meaning to speak about for a few weeks now. I watched, and I don't often suggest programs to people, TV, religious programs. I've been in love with what's happening in the other wood that's growing up. It's not, I don't even know what to call it. It's not Hollywood for sure, the way we understand Hollywood. There is now, and Angel Studios is a part of it, this growing film industry around stories of wholesomeness, around, in some cases, biblical stories, and sometimes they're just stories that have a moral and spiritual component. Well, Amazon has, I think it's an Amazon, and I hope I'm right about that, or it's either Amazon or Disney, one of them. Anyway, The House of David is a series that I've been watching. And let me tell you, The House of David is just really one of the most remarkable series. It is totally, of course, built on the Old Testament view of David. And it's just a great series. It's not Angel Studios, but it's another one that has emerged. I forgot their name, and I'll find it. But all of a sudden, there is a resurgence of, and it is not just Christianity, there is a resurgence of people looking for truth in their lives through spirit. And it is taking place also in the media. And it's just a wonderful thing to be alive, to see the pendulum beginning to swing back the other way.
That is really wonderful. That is such good news.
Yeah. So happy Easter, Rhonda. Thank you, of course, as always, for joining us. Where can people find you?
TheDailyBS.com. The essay is there. And Rhonda Schrock, SCHROCK.com.
Thank you, Rhonda, so much. Ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for us this week. May God bless each and every single one of you, your families, your loved ones. Love and gratitude always for your being here with me and allowing me to be with you. God willing, we are back next Saturday. Same time, same place, and we'll do it again. Until then, my friends, I bid you adieu. Happy Easter. Bye.